It started on a Thursday. I came home late from work, as usual, with a plastic bag of takeout in one hand and my laptop bag slipping off the other shoulder. The lights were on, dinner was already on the table, and Anne was sitting there in total silence, staring at her glass of white wine like it held the answer to the universe. I should have known something was off. She hates eating alone, hates when I'm late. But that night, she didn't even mention it. Just looked up and said, "We need to talk." God. Those words that every married man fears. I sat down, still in my wrinkled button-up, a little sweaty from the bus, still smelling faintly of printer toner and coffee. "Okay," I said cautiously, trying to read her. "What's going on?" She exhaled, not angrily. It was more like a controlled breath, the kind you take before a presentation. And then she launched into it. "Ryan, I've been thinking a lot lately, about us, about who we've become. I'm not happy, and I don't think you are either." Right there, my heart started to pound. Not happy? We just went on a weekend trip. I took time off. We laughed. Didn't we? She continued. "You've changed, or maybe you stopped changing. You're stagnant. You come home, you eat, you watch TV, you sleep. That's your loop. And I'm not saying you're a bad husband. You're just not enough anymore." That last part hit like a punch to the gut. Not enough. Like I was a defective product she couldn't return. I felt my throat tighten. My palms went cold. I wanted to defend myself, to say work's been stressful, that I've been trying, that life's just been heavy lately. But she wasn't done. "So here's what I'm thinking," she said, taking another sip of wine. "We don't need to break up, not yet. I'm giving you a 90-day window, a trial, an opportunity for you to reset. Show me you can grow. Show me that this marriage still has potential." I stared at her. "A trial? You're giving me a contract?" I said, a little too sharply. "Don't be dramatic, Ryan. Think of it as a performance review," she replied with that same HR calm tone she used when firing interns. A performance review, after 6 years of marriage, after I stood by her through her job layoffs, through her surgery, through her panic attacks at 3 a.m. when she couldn't breathe. Now I'm an employee on probation? So if I fail this little review, what then? I asked. She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. We separate, maybe even divorce. And that was it, just like that, like she was talking about switching cell phone providers. I went numb, nodded slowly, my voice caught in my throat. "Okay," I whispered. Because what else do you say when your wife tells you she might leave? You say okay, and you hope she doesn't mean it. You hope that if you just work hard enough, smile more, hit the gym, make her laugh, you'll remind her of who you were. I stayed up that night making a list, not on paper, just in my head. Get a haircut, stop skipping the gym, surprise her with something romantic. Read that book she always mentioned. Don't complain, be charming again, be fun, be whoever she used to love. I didn't sleep. She did. She always did, even when I couldn't. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have imagined, was that Anne already had someone who made her laugh, someone who didn't need a contract to prove he was enough. The first week was the hardest. It felt like walking on a frozen lake. One wrong step and I'd fall through. I was overly careful with every word I said, every move I made, every breath I took around her. Anne didn't ask for updates, but I gave them anyway. I signed up for a new gym, the one with the rock-climbing wall, remember? I meal prepped this week. No more late-night burgers. I started journaling, helps with stress. She nodded politely, smiled sometimes, kissed me on the cheek like a supportive coach on the sidelines. But it wasn't love. It was approval, conditional approval. Like she was grading me with invisible check marks I couldn't see. I bought her flowers on a Wednesday, not because it was a special day, but because I thought maybe spontaneity still mattered. "That's sweet," she said, placing them in a vase. "You used to bring me lilies." Right. My mistake. I had forgotten her favorite. Strike one. I changed my wardrobe, traded hoodies for collared shirts, started using cologne again, took cold showers in the morning like some self-improvement guru told me to, read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People front to back, even underlined passages. God, I hated that book. But I kept trying, because part of me believed that if I just worked hard enough, I could win her back. That this was a phase, a bump in the road. We were married. Marriage is hard, right? And yet, something kept gnawing at me. Her phone never left her side anymore. She started going to work dinners twice a week, always dressed sharper than usual. She smiled at her texts, not the kind of half smiles you give your boss, the kind you give someone who flatters you. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it. So I turned it inward. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had let things go. Maybe I had taken her for granted. Maybe this version of me, tired, predictable, quiet, wasn't enough. One night, as I lay next to her in bed, wide awake, I whispered, "Do you still love me?" She was facing the other way, her back to me. Long pause, then, "I'm trying, as if love were a chore." I closed my eyes and swallowed the lump in my throat. More weeks had passed, and I had no idea I was already disqualified. By the 3rd week, I stopped feeling like a husband and started feeling like a contestant on some twisted reality show. Everything was a test: how I dressed, how I spoke, whether I remembered to ask about her day the right way, with interest, but not too much, not clingy. Whether I made dinner but didn't over-season it again like last time. Whether I laughed at the jokes she didn't bother finishing. There were days when she seemed pleased, not happy, pleased, like I'd checked enough boxes to remain in the competition another round. "I noticed you've been sticking to your gym schedule," she said one night while scrolling through her phone. "Good for you. Good for me." Like I was a middle schooler who finally remembered to do his homework. I nodded and smiled, because that's what I was supposed to do. But inside, something cracked a little more. By now, the work dinners were up to 3 nights a week. She always left in a rush, heels clicking, fresh makeup, expensive perfume that hung in the air long after the door closed. She never said where they were going, never invited me, never asked if I had eaten. One evening, I got bold. "Maybe I could join you sometime? I wouldn't mind meeting your team." Anne froze. It was just for a second, but I noticed it. "It's just casual stuff," she said, not meeting my eyes. "You wouldn't enjoy it." Then she kissed me on the forehead, not the lips, the forehead, like I was a child staying home from school. I started keeping track. Not because I didn't trust her, okay, that's a lie, but because the gaps in her stories were starting to show. One night she said she had a team dinner with just the girls, but the next morning she slipped and mentioned a joke Mike made. I didn't say anything, just stored it. 2 days later, drinks with just the girls again. Right. The same girls with Mike tagging along. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake in our bed, my bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her soft, even breaths beside me, wondering how I got here, how a woman who used to hold my hand in the grocery store now typed in her phone like she was saving someone else's marriage. I started having fantasies, not romantic, but violent little dreams where I ripped the phone out of her hand and smashed it against the wall, where I screamed, "Who is he?" loud enough to shake the windows. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled through it. Cooked dinner, paid bills, washed dishes, watched her leave, watched her come home glowing, and hated myself for still hoping she'd look at me like she used to. Then came the night that shifted everything. She left her phone charging in the kitchen, unlocked, face down, for the first time in weeks. I stared at it like it was radioactive. My hands shook. I paced back and forth. I told myself not to look. Don't stoop. Don't become that guy. Don't go through her phone. But then I remembered her laugh at the screen, the smell of unfamiliar cologne when she hugged me last week, the "I'm trying" echoing in my ears. So I picked it up. The first message was from someone named Jay. Just the letter. Jay. That dress was illegal tonight. I barely made it through dinner alive. Anne. You survived. Barely. Don't pretend you didn't love watching me walk away. My heart dropped. I scrolled up. There were memes, inside jokes, little flirty texts that made my stomach turn. And then, tucked between the lines like razors in candy, timestamps. The same nights I'd made her dinner, the same nights she'd said she was with the girls. And the worst part? This didn't look new. This looked established, routine, like I was the background noise to her real life. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I placed it back exactly as I found it, sat on the couch, stared at the blank TV screen until the colors blurred, and I whispered to myself the first honest thing I'd said in weeks. She's already gone. The next morning, I woke up before her. I watched her sleep for a few seconds. Peaceful, serene. Like she hadn't just obliterated the foundation of our marriage through emojis and half-naked selfies to a guy she saved as Jay. I didn't feel heartbreak, not anymore. Something had burned out in me overnight. Something final. There was no fight left to save us. Just the strategy for how I'd leave without her ever seeing it coming. She stirred and stretched with a yawn, turned toward me. "Morning," she murmured, all sleepy warmth. I smiled. "Morning, beautiful." I said it exactly like I would have a month ago, with the same soft tone, the same look, because now I wasn't speaking to my wife. I was speaking to a suspect, and suspects only confess when they think they're safe. Over breakfast, she scrolled her phone with one hand and sipped coffee with the other. I buttered her toast, poured her juice, played my role perfectly. "I've been thinking," I said casually, "maybe we should go away, just you and me. Reset, like old times." Her eyes lit up just for a second. That flicker of guilt, hope, excitement. "That's actually a nice idea," she said. "Where?" "Somewhere quiet. I'll look into it." I lied. There would be no trip. What I needed was time and space to prepare for the exit, the real one, the one she wouldn't see coming until the door had already closed behind me. At work, I backed up everything. Our joint accounts, insurance, mortgage records, phone logs. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer using my lunch break as cover. She was smart. I had to be smarter. She was subtle. I had to be invisible. She manipulated emotions. I would manipulate reality. That weekend, while she was at brunch, I went into the guest room where she kept her old phones. One of them still turned on. She hadn't wiped it. Rookie mistake. There were old messages there. Screenshots. Proof that Jay wasn't just a flirtation. He'd been around for months. Long before my trial period began. One message stopped me cold. He agreed to the 90 days. LOL. I swear men are so easy when you package control as self-help. I stared at the words. And for the first time since this all began, I smiled. Not because it was funny, because now I had everything I needed. She didn't give me a 90-day trial to save our marriage. She gave me 90 days to stage my exit, and she'd already signed her own termination papers. That night, I lit candles, cooked her favorite risotto, the one I used to mess up. This time it was perfect. She laughed, had seconds, even leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. "You're really trying," she said softly. "I see it." "Just want to make you happy," I replied, looking her straight in the eye. She nodded, completely unaware. But I wasn't making her happy. I was making her comfortable, because soon, very soon, I'd be the one holding the pen at the end of her contract. And this time, the only box I'd be checking was termination, effective immediately. 90 days. I counted each one, not because I was hopeful, not after what I'd read on her old phone, but because I needed time. Time to detach, to observe her without letting the pain spill out, to prepare my exit with surgical precision. She thought I was healing. I was planning her funeral. Not literally, of course, just the slow, dignified death of whatever version of us still remained. And now, the day had arrived. She stood in the hallway that evening, in front of our hallway mirror, adjusting the necklace I'd bought her years ago, back when gifts still meant something, back when I still believed. She looked radiant, and for the first time in months, it wasn't confusing. It was infuriating how easily she could wear her betrayal like it was just another accessory. "You ready?" she asked, smiling. I made a reservation. I figured we'd go somewhere meaningful. Perfect, I replied, grabbing my coat. Let's celebrate. She didn't notice the edge in my voice. Why would she? She wasn't listening anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. The restaurant was the kind with dim lighting, linen tablecloths, soft jazz humming from overhead speakers, and waiters who whisper like conspirators. It was where I first told her I loved her. Now it would be where I told her goodbye. We sat across from each other, menus barely touched. She was glowing, not because she was happy with me, but because she thought she won. Thought she tamed the man she'd been quietly discarding for months. She talked about how proud she was of our progress. Honestly, Ryan, you're a different man, she said, smiling over her glass of wine. You really stepped up. I feel like we found our rhythm again. You think so? I asked, sipping slowly. I do. You're more confident, more present, and I feel seen again. I nodded, then slowly reached into the inside pocket of my jacket. I've got something for you. Her eyes lit up, like I'd just pulled out a jewelry box. Of course, she expected a reward, a token for her manipulation, a thank you for giving me an ultimatum disguised as growth. Instead, I placed a small black envelope on the table. Matte paper, no writing, just thick enough to demand attention. What's this? She asked, a soft laugh escaping her lips. Just something to mark the end of our 90 days, I said, watching her carefully. She took it with both hands, still smiling. She opened it slowly, like she wanted to savor the reveal. Her fingers pulled out 2 sheets of paper. The first, a printed screenshot of her old message to Jay. He agreed to the 90 days. LOL. I swear, men are so easy when you package control as self-help. I saw it. The exact second her soul flinched. Her lips parted. Her eyes flicked up to mine, then back down. She fumbled to flip to the second page. The divorce petition. My signature already on the line. Where did you get this? She whispered, voice suddenly thin and fragile. Does it matter? I said calmly. You should have wiped your old phone. Her breathing changed, shallow now, uneven. Her cheeks flushed, but I didn't let her speak. I leaned forward, my voice soft but cutting. You gave me 90 days to prove I was good enough. But what you actually gave me was 90 days to remember who I am and who you became. Ryan, I didn't mean it like that. No, I said, tilting my head slightly. You meant every word. You just didn't expect me to read them. I gestured toward the divorce petition. This is me returning the favor. Consider your contract terminated, effective immediately. For a moment, all sound disappeared. The clinking forks, the murmurs from other tables, the music. It was just her, stunned, silent, and me, feeling the most in control I had in years. She opened her mouth again. Ryan, please. Can we just… I stood up slowly. I'll be staying at the Marriott downtown for a while. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't contact me. Ryan! I didn't look back. Not once. That night, I lay in a hotel bed staring at the ceiling, and I didn't feel broken. I felt reborn. I wasn't her project anymore. I wasn't on trial. I was free. It took exactly 8 days for her to try and contact me. I didn't read the first message, or the second. By the 5th, I started collecting them. Not out of curiosity, but for legal purposes. At first, it was apologetic. Please, Ryan, can we talk? Just once? I made a mistake. I know that now. Then came bargaining. It didn't mean anything. I was confused. You were distant. I didn't think you cared anymore. By the second week, it turned resentful. You think you're so perfect? You think you're better than me now? You abandoned me, just like that. I didn't respond. Not once. I later found out who Jay was. His name was Jordan Kane, divorced, 33, mid-level marketing director at her firm. The kind of guy who wore blazers over t-shirts and called himself a connector on LinkedIn. The kind of guy who thrived on attention and was always just between things. They'd been hooking up on and off since the company retreat in January, a full 4 months before she handed me that ridiculous contract. Anne thought she was playing chess, but Jordan? He was playing pickup basketball with no defense. It didn't last. 2 weeks after I walked out, he ghosted her, blocked her, told HR she was getting too attached, then started flirting with someone from the accounting department. Classy. Anne filed for a cooling-off period before finalizing the divorce. My lawyer laughed. I signed the final documents without hesitation. I moved into a smaller loft downtown. No silent dinners, no fake check-ins, just peace, and a little balcony with a view of the skyline. I started running, not to impress anyone, just to feel something real again. I took a photography class, made new friends, met a woman who didn't ask for a 90-day trial, who liked me just as I was, who laughed at my dry jokes and didn't make me feel like I needed a user manual to be loved. Her name's Zoe. She has a crooked smile and a loud laugh, and when she touches my hand in a crowd, it doesn't feel like a performance. It feels like home. As for Anne, last I heard, she transferred to a different office. Some people say she started dating someone new. Others say she's working on herself. Good. Let her. Let her sit with the realization that the man she dismissed, diminished, and manipulated didn't fall apart. He walked away. Because here's the thing about trial periods. They're not just for testing love. Sometimes they test your tolerance. And once you realize what you truly deserve, you stop renewing contracts with people who never valued you in the first place.